Hi, Mayor Marsh. Thank you so much for joining me and the Loveland Voice today to talk a little bit more about what's going on with the Urban Renewal Authority, metro districts, and I think we're going to talk about the Master Financing Agreement.
I don't know if
Not
we'll
today.
have time. Okay.
Not today, but I think this is going to be part of a three-part series.
Okay.
I wanted to let you know that we've had 332 views of your last interview. So people are hungry for this information. And I'm really grateful for your time and your knowledge.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. I know it's a lot to take on, but people do need information. And it's hard to get that in a short newspaper article. And most people don't want to watch city council meetings.
It can be tough, as you might know better than most of us. Well, let's just jump right in. Tell me what is a metro district? You know, it's something I kind of understand, but not entirely. So can you kind of clarify that?
Okay, so you have two types of metro districts, or they can be both. You have a residential metro district, or you can have a business, or you can have one that has both. So for lack of time, let's stick with residential for today. If you think about, say a person or a business wanted to make a living building homes, and they're going to build, say, 50 homes. The old way, and it's still currently used, so I hate to say old way because people still do it this way. You would buy a tract of land, and then you want to build your homes. Well, you can't sell a home unless it's hooked up to sewer and water, storm water, electric, which means you need a road and a sidewalk and all of those things. So a person wanting to make a living selling homes would put all that, what we call infrastructure, in. The sewer, coming off the main, wherever it's coming off of, goes into those lots. You have two levels of developers. One level might just do that part. They purchased the land, they got it prepared, they did the work to level it, they got the infrastructure, and then they might sell individual lots to a home builder, and they've made their money back on that infrastructure when they sell those lots. Or you might have somebody that does the entire package, that builds in that infrastructure and then builds the homes. When you do that without using a metro district, those costs are built into the price of the home. So the person buying that home is buying the home plus all the work and labor that was done to get it to the point that you could have a home. That's how it was done for as long as I know, correct? Well, then we enter the world of metro districts. The concept behind a metro district started, I believe, because people wanted to build kind of urban sprawl, build in areas that didn't have that infrastructure, way out in the boonies. Therefore, that cost of that infrastructure, the roads, the sidewalks, the sewer, the stormwater, would be expensive. So the concept of metro districts came up that you would bond, borrow money for that infrastructure. I'd say anything happening in Loveland, is not out in the boonies. If you think about where some of the original metro districts were, on the northeast side of Loveland, you had IHOP there, you had Best Western, you had established businesses that had been there for a long time. So the development going east on Eisenhower was laid a long time ago. That could be an issue on 402 because it doesn't have all that. So that might be legitimate, although you do still have a lot of homes out that way. So the idea of borrowing money to build that infrastructure, a bank, wants to see how are you going to repay those monies that you borrow. All right, so things like roads, sewer, stormwater, electric are actually considered liabilities, because they need repair, they need replacing. They're not an asset that you can sell. So how do you tell the bank you're going to repay the money? You do revenue bonds. Revenue bonds. You have no revenue from the roads or the sewer or the stormwater, right? It's the buildings that you put on those lots, whether it's a home or a commercial building. That's the revenue. So what a metro district does, it establishes debt that will be repaid based on property taxes and the additional metro taxes or metro fees on those properties.
How many metro districts do we have? Do you know?
At last count, I think about 26 in Loveland, and I believe we have more than any other city in northern Colorado.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how does that impact like a homeowner when you're talking about property taxes and paying off that debt?
It means that very quickly, what somebody is paying in their property taxes annually when they pay them is about double what somebody not in a metro district pays. It doesn't take long. So if you, let me give you an example. So collectively, all of our property taxes, if you look at the school district, they have two, Larimer County, the city of Loveland, the health district, Pest. Collectively, we, each of us on our properties pay about 80 mills. Metro districts, if you look at like the lakes at Centerra, they have 77 additional mills for that debt. So they're paying almost 160 mills compared to our 80 mills. So,
Wow.
you know, so what happens is every time your home appreciates, which it has done very rapidly in the last few years, your 80 mills for the city, that actual dollar amount that you pay increases. That 77 mills, if we're using Lakes at Centerra as an example, that also increases, which logically you're going to ask, because I asked this, well, then wouldn't you reduce the amount of mills because you're taking in so much more money because the price of the home went up, right? So when the city council approves a metro district, we have a third party company come in to tell us, do their projections and stuff make sense? Are we likely to repay that debt in the time period that you have to repay the debt? In the past, it was Hilltop Securities is the company we engaged. I don't know if that's still the company. So at one of our meetings, the meetings that approved Kingston and West Boyd, the gentleman didn't attend our meeting. So I was very upset that he didn't attend the meeting. And I called him and got him on the phone. I think he was at the airport. And we had a couple of hours on the phone to speak. And I asked him that question: why wouldn't the mills go from 77 down to 70 if the price of the appraised value of the home is now higher and you're taking in more money? And his answer to me was, they count on appreciation. They count that the home value is going to continue to increase at that same mill levy, and the homeowner or future homeowners are going to continue to pay more money, because otherwise they wouldn't take in enough revenue to repay the debt. So it's built into their evaluation that home values are going to increase and people are going to pay more and more for those same homes.
Can you help me understand what a mill is?
You take your assessed value, which is not the actual value of the home, and it's like you times it by 1,000, something like that. Better to ask somebody else more. That, the city of Loveland collects 9.56 mills for our share of the property tax. And from that and our sales tax revenue is how we fund the police and the fire and the library and the rec center and road maintenance and potholes. And, so ours is 9.56. So when you're talking about a metro district, there are two sets of mill levies. One is to repay the debt, and then one is for operations and maintenance, O&M. We right now have put a cap on O&M of 15 mills. A lot of that money goes to pay the managing company that's managing that metro district. In theory, the O&M is to pay your common cost, the landscaping along between the sidewalk and the road, the water to water that landscaping, lighting, your street lights, whatever. It's to pay kind of the common expense. What a couple of metro districts have recently found is that they're going over the 15 mills. So what a lot of homeowners don't realize is in the Metro District agreement, it says that the mills are capped at 15 mills for O&M. And the debt is capped at X number of mills, 65 mills, whatever, to repay the debt. There's a disclaimer line in there. However, if what they're collecting is insufficient to pay the cost or the debt, they reserve the right to charge an additional fee. So we've had 2 areas right now. Parkside is one, and then the Eagle Ridge Meadows, the one off Taft and Wilson on 57th. Both of them have experienced receiving an invoice for $700 for additional fees because their O&M wasn't enough. I don't know if that helps with mill levies.
No, I mean, it does. Thank you. And I recall at least one person speaking at a city council meeting asking for help, to some relief for that.
They asked for 45 mills for
Yeah.
O&M on a
Yeah.
$600,000 home. That brings their mills up to 94. So between their debt mills and that O&M, they're at 94 or 96. I don't remember exactly, on top of our regular 80.
That's wild.
Again, if you think about people that buy a home that are teachers, firefighters, police, people, that, their income is kind of capped, retirees, they're not going to see huge jumps, right? Well, when you have a huge jump in your property tax because of increasing metro, dollars, for a lot of people, that means, okay, you're taking more money out of my pocket. There's not more money coming into my pocket. I'm a retiree. So now I have $2,000 less to spend a year. That means I'm not going to go to dinner as often. I'm not going to spend as much money, on gifts for my family. I'm not going to take that vacation. So in an indirect way, it harms our local businesses because you're going to have a segment of the population. Imagine you're a retiree, your Social Security, whatever your retirement plan is, you just have less money in your pocket to spend and you didn't get anything extra for it.
So you have some visuals back there that I'm
Yes.
interested in. So how are metro districts? I know the South Centerra URA is a really hot topic. This is like coming up. It's going to impact the city big time, one way or the other. So how is the upcoming South Centerra URA connected to metro districts, and like why is that important for us to understand?
And I don't have details yet. I hope to learn more tomorrow night. My understanding is they do want to do metro district. And so you would have, so again, 2 types of metro districts, basically. You have residential metro districts, and then you have commercial metro districts. What gets lumped in with commercial residential is when you do multifamily. So if you have an apartment complex, that is different than a single family home. They're taxed at a higher rate because it's considered, an income producing rather than your home. So their fees get much higher. So the new way is that you bond. What I have found in asking people that come before council, asking for a metro district, there are a couple of questions I routinely ask that they answer. One is, are you going to charge less for that home because there is $50,000 in debt? That person's share of that joint infrastructure debt, their home's share is an extra $50,000. Are you going to reduce that home price by $50,000 because in reality they owe another $50,000? And the answer, I've never heard a different answer. The answer is always, we're going to charge market rate, which means they're going to charge the same for that home as a home that's not in a metro district. The other question I ask, and I didn't ask it in the beginning because I didn't think to, but anymore I ask, at what point are you going to actually issue the bonds? When are you actually going to borrow the money? Because again, is a bank going to loan money for a road or a sewer? You don't have a revenue at that point. Are they going to want you to actually have buildings on those lots that they can say, okay, now there's the revenue because a property tax with metro fees is going to be sent to that property owner. So far, the answers that I've gotten are they are going to bond after the development is built, meaning the developer has already paid for those costs. And in the 2 phase, where you have one person prepare the lots with all the infrastructure, and then you have the home builder building, so that the person who paid for that infrastructure, that prepared the lot, they've already paid for it, and they got their money back when they sold the lot to the home builder. So at that point, why do you wait? Why don't you just put the cost of that infrastructure into the cost of the home like it was always done?
If I purchased a home in a metro district a few years ago, and I wasn't completely clear on all the details, which is probably true for most people, I would imagine. What happens to me?
So you're going to end up every time your home is, reappraised by the county assessor, which is every other year. And assuming it continues as it has, your home value is going to go up, which is great when you sell your home. It doesn't help you when you're living in your home because your 80 mills that the county, the school, and the city charges, that is going to be a higher dollar amount because it's 80 mills on whatever, 400,000, now it's 500,000. And what you're going to pay in metro fees is also going to increase significantly. What you see fairly quickly when you first build the home, the highest number on your property tax bill is Thompson School District. Okay, within a few years, the highest will be the metro district fee.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a real shame.
And the other differences are when that cost, the infrastructure cost, is built into the price of the home, you can pay it off in 30 years. You can get a lower interest rate typically than what the bonds are. For the past years, recently, it's been like 2-3%. The bonds were 5.25%. So you can get lower interest rate bonds. You can pay them off when you want to. If you're going to retire in 15 years, rather than a 30-year mortgage, you can say, I want a 15-year mortgage. You can't do these with these metro bonds. And anymore, the metro bond repayment period is going out to 40 years. Back in 2014, when I first started kind of learning about this, metro debt was paid off in 25 years. Now it's 40 with a possibility of going out 45. Imagine how much more you're paying in interest when you're paying a higher interest rate and you're taking it out over time.
Wow, that's
Over
wild.
time.
I just want to clarify, and I might be incorrect about this. So does that mean if I buy a home in a metro district, I can't really refinance?
You can refinance your home, and some people will say, okay, well, your metro fees are tax deductible. Well, so is your mortgage interest. So both are tax deductible. No, it's a separate debt that you owe, but a lending company is going to look at your income. How much income do you have? They're going to look at your mortgage. They're going to look at your property tax, which is going to include the metro fees, and they're going to look at your property insurance as well. Well, as those metro fees are increasing, logically, you're going to have a higher bar to reach to be able to refinance, because instead of it being, 4,000, now it's 6,000.
Wow.
You can just logically think this through and see the downfalls. I would invite people in our area, to compare the homes. Dakota Ridge, which is in southwest Loveland, is a fairly new development of homes, very nice homes that did not use a metro district. Almost next door to it, a little bit west and a little bit north, is Parkside. Also a nice development with metro fees. Drive through and compare. So in both cases, you have HOAs, homeowners associations. So, the means to pay for common expenses like water and lights and stuff, is built in there with an HOA if you want to go that route. So metro districts are their own thing, and then you have HOAs on top of it. So if you have a pool, so when you think about metro fees, because it's a tax, it has to be for public improvement. So anything that you build with metro debt or metro fees has to be available to the public. So if you're going to add a pool and a rec center, unless you want all of Loveland and all of northern Colorado to use your pool and your rec center, you're going to want to build that pool and rec center with HOA so that you can limit it to the residents of that development only. So it's your roads, it's your sidewalks, it's your, landscaping, your sewer. Those are the metro fees and stuff that you're paying for.
Okay.
I just think the original method, which again is still used a lot, is still the best method. I have proposed, I've asked for a rule of 4 at city council, yet to come forward. I got my rule of 4 several years ago, is an alternative way to do this. And my idea is, say you actually do have a developer that can't afford that infrastructure and they need to bond. I've yet to see that, but okay, because usually you have to be a fairly big developer to get that bank to loan you. But say you do, instead of a 30, 40 year bond, let's do a 5-year bond. In other words, if the developer is saying it's going to take me 2.5 years to build those 100 homes, let's do a 5-year bond just to give them some little room in case things don't go as planned. And what you would do is when somebody is buying that home, the title company is going to help with this. The title company is going to combine their portion of their bond debt with the mortgage to create one mortgage. So you're going to pay off the builder that built the home, and you're going to pay off that property owner's portion of the common debt. So you end up with one mortgage. The infrastructure cost and the home cost are in one again, and that borrower can get the best rate they can based on their credit history and income. And you don't have this going on for 35, 45 years. It's done in one, and you go back to the system. Everything's in one.
Do you mind showing me the graphs behind you? Do they relate to what we're talking about?
Yeah. So this is one, George and I did this back in 2019, so it may be dated. This is where we were comparing the cost of new homes by square footage, and we tried to compare apples to apples, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, same size homes. So this is showing the starting price of a brand new home in a metro district or without. The green dots are without a metro district, in other words, the regular way of building homes, and the orange are in a metro district. So you can see they're not reduced in cost by the additional debt that's owed at the time they buy the home. Okay, the other chart is showing over time the property tax these people are going to pay. So you can see the green dots are homes not in a metro district, and the orange are in a metro district. You can see how that extra number of mills is going to cost them on their property tax.
Wow.
So what couple of consequences is that what the school district found, when they were not able to pass the 2016, I think it was, school bond that they tried, they did a survey. They, I assume, paid a company to go out and ask people, why didn't you support the school bond? The answer that they got was that people in metro districts believe they're overtaxed. So they tended to vote no, versus people that don't live in metro districts were more likely to say yes. So again, besides having less money in your pocket to spend in our stores and restaurants and coffee shops and breweries, you also affect the school's ability to bond.
Ugh.
For needed school improvements.
That's really difficult. You've touched on this a few times, but what do we really need to know? Like, what is the headline, and what is happening like in the very near future that we need to understand to be empowered to make good decisions or support you or contact our council members? What do we need to do?
Well, we have, it sounds like Centerra South is going to ask for a metro district, and I believe we have another entity coming in as well, more on the northwest part of town. If I could get people to do anything, it would be contact your state representatives. Janice Marchman, our new state senator for our area, is very well aware of this, and ask them to please put in the statutes that when somebody is selling a home in a metro district, you have to disclose the amount of money that is owed besides the cost of the home. So, and even if it's not, the metro district isn't completed building, they know what the debt cap is. So if you take a look at the lakes at Centerra, that's two metro districts, District 2 and District 3, with the master being District 1, their debt is capped at 50 million and they've reached it. So you can do the math. You can say there are going to be X number of homes when this is finished and it's 50 million. You can divide that up and say, and it's not exact because it's based on your mills on the price of the home, right? So a higher priced home owes more of that infrastructure debt, but you can give a ballpark. Each of the homes in this development owe an extra, whatever that figure is, $45,000, $50,000. You need to disclose that to people when they're looking at putting an offer on a home, so that they can say this home in a metro district is 400,000 plus 50. This home not in a metro district is just the 450. That allows them to, to understand what the cost is really. You wouldn't buy a car and say, okay, the car is 50,000. Oh, and there's another 10,000 owed here in the background. You would insist that they tell you it's 50 plus 10. That's what we need to get our state representatives to pass. Is it's only fair, telling you that there's extra mills in saying, okay, a home in a metro district is going to be X number of property tax dollars and a home not. That doesn't connect with there's an extra 50,000 owed.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I'm going to ask one more question and then I will wrap up. So wasn't there a law passed a few years ago about this? Is it not in effect or is it not applicable?
So Loveland, I can honestly say Loveland has been leading the way in trying to be more transparent with metro districts. Denver Post reporter did an expose on metro districts back in 2019, so that because people are surprised. So now you do have to disclose that you're in a metro district, and you do have to give an example that a home not in a metro district would cost this much in property taxes. A home in a metro district would cost this much. So you can see that comparison. But early on, those differences aren't as extreme as this chart shows. You need to disclose their share of debt. So yes, there have been advances in, clearing up some of the transparency. In my opinion, they don't go far enough until you tell them, hey, you owe an extra $40,000. How can you really compare that? Again, go drive through Dakota Ridge and Parkside, and nothing, both are great developments, but see what, the transparency issues and how much they're paying in property taxes.
Right. Thank you. So tomorrow is a city council meeting. It's a study session. Is that correct?
It's a special meeting followed by a study session. So we have a few things to have council approve that we would like you to apply for applying for a grant to build a homeless shelter. There's a few things on our special agenda that require us to take action. We can't take action in a study session. So those couple of items will come up first, then we go to the study session. And I would think that it's going to, there are 3 items on it about a URA, and then a presentation by Centerra, what they are proposing that we do. We do have a couple of quote unquote experts coming to talk about the pros and cons of URAs. So I'm looking forward to I have a lot of questions about, because this is the first time the city is trying to form a URA under the new laws that say the county and the school district and any special districts get a seat at the table. So, and it's also the first time, I believe, putting a URA in that's an agricultural parcel.
All right. Well, thank you.
Both of those laws were changed in the past.
Thank you so much, Jacki. I hope that people that are watching this interview will pay attention to what happens at City Council tomorrow. I really appreciate your time and your knowledge. I know you work so hard to understand all of this, and I'm really grateful that you're explaining it to us in a way that we can like review and come back to and share with people. So I thank you so much.
Well, and I know they're confusing topics, and I wish I could make it even simpler than that. And there's a lot more depth you can go into logically. I appreciate you giving a space for people like myself to try to explain, so that people do understand, because people's voices, people are our residents are the ones that are going to be paying for this.
Yeah.
It definitely impacts everybody.
Yeah.
URAs, in my opinion, when you divert money, that's less money to pay our librarians, our employees, our firefighters, our police. These things have a major impact, and they're long term. When people start thinking about changing the charter, these are things that need to be addressed. In my opinion, what is being proposed, on the URA and they need to go to the voters. You should not be able to divert revenue for 25 years without getting voter approval. And some cities have done that. We could follow suit. It would need a change of the charter, so yeah. Lot of work to be done, Jessica. I appreciate you helping to get the word out.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you too. And we will talk again soon. We'll talk about the master financing agreement in the next installment.
That is being negotiated. It was due to die in 2029. I'm not happy it's being renegotiated. It needs to go away. Enough.
We'll talk more about that on the next one. Thank you so much, Jacki, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks, Jessica. Have a good Monday.
Bye-bye.